husband and I, we moved everything that we have across the country, and it's one of those things where you don't realize how special a place is until you leave it. A lot of my family still lives here, a lot of his family still lives here. So the familial ties pulled us back, the community of friends eventually pulled us back. And we're just trying our best to kind of like eke out a living here. So we...
I am from Florida, and I have no family here. But sometimes, like I tell my family, I said, I can deal with sorry for you in a certain way, but when my family's a certain way, it breaks my heart. So I'm away from my family, which is no problem with me. The friends and family that I've found here, this is where my heart is. My mother used to always ask me, where do you find these people? I love the oddballs of anyone that's
That's what I love to do, and that was my like art. That was like what the biggest gift I could give to the world. And so I expunged on that as much as possible. But I was out in Denver and had some really big trouble with like home life, you know, landlords. I always wanted a place to gather friends and family. I always wanted a place big enough to gather friends and family. Like, it wasn't really always about what, like, me. It was always about, like, helping the community or, like, you know, gathering of the community, holding events. Growing up, like I said, my dad was a tattoo artist, so, you know, when I did get to see him, he'd be, like, tattooing 12 o'clock p.m. and then go to the bar, or close down the shop at 9 p.m. and then go to the bar at 9, from 9 till the bar closed and then bring the whole bar home. So it was constantly this social gathering. When I was over at my grandma's house, she, at the flick of a wrist, she could make a meal for 100 people. You know, she'd just have hundreds of people over for Christmas or, like, you know, Halloween, and it was just so amazing how to see her, the way that she socially interacted with others and how many people gathered to be in her presence. The marriage, you know, we were living in West Virginia, and everything to be going smooth. But the marriage, you know, we were living in West Virginia. We just couldn't stop, you know, bickering and arguing.
I think of it as a container, a bottle of one's own perfume. You know, everybody's home has a really distinct smell, and I think growing up in so many other people's homes, and also just being that friend that was, you know, at my best friend's house 24/7. Just, yeah, it's a mixture of like the food they cook, their laundry detergent, their pet, you know, whatever. And in many ways, the smell of how they take care of themselves. I don't really have a specific image that comes to mind, but I do think of it in that way, and I just view it as a container, you know, for all of our ephemera, all of our nostalgia, all of our little tucked away letters that we keep.
It's kind of like music. So I am a vocalist, and I'm lucky enough to carry my instrument with me everywhere, and that is the feeling that I have from home, because everything else is temporary.
Just be able to relax, have TV, have a cereal. I really can't say though what it would be like, because like I said, it's been so long. When I'm in somebody's house, I feel really weird. I might go in there and take a shower. Hey, can I take a shower? That's to most people that's not a big deal, but it's like, hey, I need to shower, man. It's been 2 or 3 weeks, man. I'm smelling pretty funky. I need to hop in the water, man. Can you help me out? And to a lot of people that's a problem with COVID going on and stuff, but that'd be my regular thing, being able to take a shower, come home, eat, heat up some food, and just be able to be at peace, you know what I'm saying? Be able to close that door, I guess that'd be my ideal place.
My dream is a ranch. Flat yard, 1 level, walk-in shower, tub, screen-head porch, wood burning fire, stove thing. A place where I could be on the yard and have a garden. But just a place is enough where we feel safe. Oh, right now I live in a...
It's just I want to be in a safe place where I can expunge on my talents and express myself fully. I believe that it's a great place for expression, but then again, it goes back to how difficult is it to find a home.
I want to learn foraging and plant a vegetable and healing herb garden. But in my current living situation, I'm stuck in an artificial environment. But I need to be close by here to be close to the resources. But I'm not feeling comfort right now. I hate having to wait for the business establishments to shut down. And sometimes the owners is there past the hour, or they come in late at night to do, check-ins, and it just gets irritating when I just want to rest and sleep. Or I have to leave in the morning because they want to take care of something 2 hours before the place is open. So I want to start living in the woods where I could go to bed anytime I want to and sleep in for as long as I want.
And every day for me is a struggle, being homeless on the streets, sometimes taking a shower, getting around, and sometimes food. I know several times like that. Like I did say about the food resources, but sometimes you run out of things because people can only help you so much. But definitely for me now, my situation too with my leg and stuff like that. Pretty much sometimes not getting a shower, not being able to make it somewhere to take a shower, and then when you do go somewhere to take a shower, you got to be there a certain time. Blah 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 blah. It's just not normal. You know what I'm saying? Most people just go home and lay back on their TV and watch stuff, and they don't have to worry about that certain stuff. But definitely having a time limit of things you have to do, because you're always, you have a set schedule. You know what I'm saying? You can't just do what you want to do, pretty much. And being homeless on crutches, trying to get around, trying to eat, trying to maintain my daily life. You don't know the daily task of just going from point A to point B. It takes me 2 hours to do anything. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. You take stuff for granted, and that's one thing I did. I took my legs for granted. I don't know if it's karma, but that's why I always ask, do you believe in karma? Because when I had my legs, was I running around doing the right stuff? Nah, but it is what. I've been under a bridge. Sergeant would come through. 20 minutes. Pack up everything you got. Pack up what you can. Get out. Go. I'm talking about so much stuff just thrown away. They brought dumpsters in, and which I can understand. The rig situation and the drug situation and stuff like that. But at the same point in time, and it's people's belongings. That's our stuff. You know what I'm saying? 20 minutes. I'm talking about a lot of stuff, man. You wouldn't even believe, and they just come in there and clean it out and throw it out. And same down here with this bridge and stuff, which you can't. I understand you can't just bring mattresses and all that stuff up under a bridge, but they do treat people different ways. But it has a lot to do with the drug use and the rigs, and I bet things would be a lot different if it wasn't for that.
I feel very rooted in Asheville. I can drive from home to work and feel a sense of community and connectedness in my car. I'm not speaking to anyone, but I can feel a sense of connectedness and place of myself in Asheville.
When it comes to housing vulnerability, how can Asheville improve?
So Asheville's a really difficult place to find housing. Probably the most difficult place that I've been to. You know, I've lived in Northern Virginia, I've lived in Maryland, I've lived in DC, I've lived in Denver, Boulder, I've lived in Netherlands, I've lived in California, you know, and out of all of these places, it's always so much easier to find housing than here in Asheville.
Right now, there's like kind of a frenzy of, what I sense is that a frenzy of like, buy a house before you can't buy a house, like before it just, they're all gone and owned. And
what I've noticed is that artists bring culture into a neighborhood. And then now that there's okay, so, you know, in artist neighborhood, you know, typical artists want to pay $400 or $500 a month to live so that they can spend the rest of their money on their craft, on their art. You know, studio time's not cheap, paint's not cheap, canvases aren't cheap, video equipment is not cheap, you know, audio equipment, not cheap at all. And so everything artistic-wise costs money. And so artists bring culture, they bring community to a neighborhood, and then what happens is now that there's culture and there's community here, the people with money want that in their lives because they can't create it because they're too busy doing their corporate gigs, their corporate careers, that they're like, oh, well, we don't even know how to create culture. We need to be in an artistic community so they can teach us how to be cultural. And then they move in, and then the price all of a sudden jumps up thousands of dollars. You know, something that was a $400 or $500 bedroom apartment is going for $1,200 now. And an artist does not want to pay that, so they'll figure out another way to go about it, whether it's living with a friend or, you know, car camping or camping, you know, and so that's where I'm.
So that's one that kind of comes to mind off the top of my head. We don't have a specific organization that advocates for housing vouchers. Basically normalizing them, getting people to understand, getting landlords to understand that statistically, you do not carry any greater liability if you are providing housing for somebody who's paying with government housing vouchers than you are somebody who came to you off the internet, whatever. But there's a stigma associated with it, and there is that kind of fear or concern for property owners that they are taking on a greater liability, which is not true. It's just a perception. So I think that helping to shift the narrative on that perspective of what these assistant programs do for people. There's zoning things that can be done to increase the ability for housing to be built in different areas and multifamily housing. It's a complicated issue, but there are very real, tangible ways to just start. And a lot of it has to do with perception around our most vulnerable people and seeing them as that.
Like dealing with landlords and dealing with people who don't necessarily have the same motives in mind. And so I think that, you know, what every place could do that would allow is have some type of artisan communities. I think that those type of communities will allow for expansion in the community as a whole, because the artists who bring value and bring culture to those communities will have some place to go to. And they don't have to fight over, you know, do I spend money on food or do I spend money on paint today? Or, you know, whatever the deal is. You know, luckily for me, my biggest medium is poetry, so, you know, a pen and a paper, I can get by. But there's other friends of mine who like spend $50 to $100 on studio time just to record one track, hoping that one track will get them paid. And it's not necessarily how it works. It takes putting in time. It takes being a member of the community for the community to see you as a member of them and want to support you. And it's just so hard to do both while making money and supporting yourself as an artist and supporting yourself as a normal human being. Because artists will give up creature comforts in order to continue doing their craft.
The authority told me I would be getting a one-bedroom apartment, but I'm not sure how much longer I have to wait. Someone may call me for a housing interview, but I'm not sure when. I'm not sure if it's going to be next year or 6 months from now. The waiting list is anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. So I have applied for housing this past May, so I think I may have to wait a little longer. I just fill out the application and then I just keep calling.
Yeah.
I call them every month. I just keep calling.
There's not enough resources for the homeless, and there's a miscommunication with the homeless on how to get housing and how to stay informed, because I lost my phone, and a lot of times that happens in the homeless community. You lose it, or it breaks, or it gets lost, and then they don't have a phone number. But what I did is I went over the housing authorities every Tuesday, and I told them I don't have a phone, but I'm going to be back. But I'll be back on Tuesday to check with you. And I did it every week. I just stayed right on top of it because I didn't have a phone. Then when I got a phone, I automatically let them know the phone number. And then when I did finally get housing, the lady called me and she said, "Miss Godwin." I'm like, "Yes." She said, "I'm housing authority." And then she told me she called 5 people that day, and I was the last one and the only one to answer the phone. Communication and answer your phone and stay on top of it. You know, you can't get, or you'll stay displaced. But that was the only place I could go and let them know, you know, where I was or what I was doing or whatever, because I wanted housing that bad. I needed housing that bad. In my case, I was released from Copestone, and then I went to the Hayward Street Respite, and from there they gave me the resources, or referred me to the resources that I could use to do that. And so then I got up with Homeward Bound, and Homeward Bound helped me to get my paperwork filled for the applications for housing, different apartment complexes associated with Section 8 and government and stuff, but they always need an application fee. Through Homeward Bound, they waived the application fee. So I did the paperwork for all that, and then they submitted the applications to the housing people and everything without an application fee for me. And I would go to AHOPE every day, and then through AHOPE too also, that's another really, really fabulous resource for the homeless, because you can shower and different things there, and they will help you, they will refer you. And there's a difference in enabling and helping, because you can refer someone, and if they don't do it, then it's on them. But if you do it for them, then they're not able to do anything for themselves. So, and that was me. They referred me, and you refer me for something, I'm going to get it. So I got here September the 14th, but I didn't put applications in because I was in Copestone 3 weeks. So it was November before I ever put applications in. So from November until March. My phone call was the end of March. So November, October, December, January, February, March, 6 months. And that's amazing. You know, in 6 months I got housing. To God be the glory is all I have to say about that, because I didn't have anything to do with it. It was out of my control. But I did cross all my T's and dot all my I's. You have to stay on top of the housing authority. The housing authority is connected with all the apartments and all the Section 8 people that you're going to be dealing with. So they're the main number one people. And I think they're over at the towers. You just go in there and say, "Hey, I'm here. I don't have a phone." You know. I mean, just be real. The towers is right there by Ashton Park. That's where the housing authority is. So you can go right there to the towers and make sure you're seen and make sure you're heard, because a squeaky wheel gets the oil, as they say. So that's how I did it. Me and God be the glory. Like I said, I crossed all my I's and crossed all my I's and dotted all my T's. That part, see? So I'm not normal either.
The one thing that I'm dealing with now is like water usage and making sure to constantly have fresh water. And gym memberships are great for that. So like YMCA, a really great place to be. They really work with people who are low income and really want to help the community as far as they can. And places like 12 Baskets, where we don't have to worry about food any longer. You know, they have Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. The poverty initiative here at 12 Baskets is incredible, and I'm so beyond grateful for that. Places like ABCCM and Evelyn Charities, you know, all of these charitable places that you can, any of us can go to. It's really just about finding those resources. And as far as poverty goes, Asheville really helps people get food. Like, you really can't go hungry in Asheville, but housing is the hardest part. 'Cause I've moved 5 or 6 times just in the last, year and a half, almost 2 years since I've been here.
our landlord is a very, very lovely person, and just has been super helpful, kind of just in our journey of finding housing. But it happened to one of our friends where she thought that that was her forever home, and it was a rental property, and the landlord kind of like ripped the rug from underneath her, and now she's like, I'm out, like, see y'all later. It's weird to think of the idea of like owning land in the first place. Why do we even want to purchase property? It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but there is this, this social construct of like security there, with just the comfort that knowing that like our rug isn't going to get pulled from underneath us. Like I said, I do not think that would happen with the situation that I'm in, but you also never know, especially with rentals.
Oh, right now I live in a house. We're looking to live somewhere else because it's expensive. I'm not a homeowner. This was a mistake because it's more expensive now and possibly unattainable. So we might be moving to Oklahoma. I have a family there. I lived there till I was 2.5, and my mom would move there too, and it's cheap. You can get a whole nice house for under $250. Our rent right now is $1,600, and most houses are still more expensive than that. So it's kind of like there aren't very many choices of where to move. And since it'll be up till $1,900, we just can't afford that without significant salary increases, which look a little bleak as far as an option. There's like an anxiety that's like entered into our home since it's been like over a year since he said our rent would be going up 50%, and it's just a lot less comfortable. I thought that since it said he wasn't going to increase rent, it was stable. It's just $100 every year. So it seemed really harsh at first, but I see how gentle it is with, some people, the rent just goes up $400, $500, $600 all at once. So we've got that. There just aren't a lot of options. And like when we go look at places, we're lucky to live in a nice house, like a newer build, and even when we're looking to buy houses, we come back and be like, we're so glad we live here because it feels good. And we're seriously leaving, so it's strange to think about, and we don't really want to do it. But, we want to be able to pay our bills, so.
The past 2 years, we've really been playing the market, and we're on Zillow every single day, whether it's for a rental property or for a good deal on a house, which are few and far between, especially within our like very modest middle class incomes and things like that. So it seems like the range of property and houses that we're looking for is also what most of the people within our age are also looking for. So it's a dog-eat-dog world, and it's hard to play that game because it almost feels selfish to think of purchasing something or finding a good deal and jumping on it really quickly before the next person does, because it shouldn't be such a competition for housing and to find a home. It's interesting to think about how actually it's just like it's kind of just vicious looking through. And we've put a couple bids on properties and just flat out got outbid and lost and all of those things, and that's deflating in itself. So being someone who has spent my entire life here, I have definitely seen kind of just the rise and the fall and then the spike of prices. My father also grew up here, and so he's seen property that you couldn't get a loan on or that no one wanted to buy sell for millions of dollars right down the road on Riverside Drive. So that's just an interesting thing too, of just you couldn't give it away, and now people are absolutely fighting for it. So it's just this interesting thing, and I don't know if it's a turn of
maybe just the way that people think, and time is running out and I have to do it now, or it's just going to get more expensive, which no one knows how the market is going to work. I think it's just a mentality switch that needs to happen of just, it's not so me and mine and my space, and I'm going to put a fence up and like have a little slice of whatever. I think, like I had mentioned, I feel like there's plenty for everyone, but it's kind of, it sometimes feels claustrophobic living here. I think because, and it's a beautiful thing that it's expanding as rapidly as it is, because again, it kind of feels selfish to be like, no, like no one else moved to Asheville, please. But even property like an hour drive from Asheville is unaffordable for most people. So it feels easy to get pushed out because it's just, things don't correlate to where you can really happily maybe and comfortably live here with all the very like simple necessities of just life. It just, like I said, it shouldn't just feel like such a competition. If we did leave, it would be temporary. We would find ourselves back here because it's just, there's a magnetic field under this city and this county and all the surrounding area. We did leave. Like I said, we moved everything, but we came back. So I think the same thing would happen if we left. We would eventually come back.
Pretty stuff with like food and a bed, but maybe it's more about, for me, education. Something that I've been thinking about with I'm Home is financial literacy, and wondering how many people understand how a credit card works, or like how if you don't have that for a long time, I know this is kind of a segue, if you don't have your credit card for a certain amount of time, it'd be very difficult for you to have a home.
The decision to get into real estate was very much influenced by my background. Growing up, we didn't have a home. We lived in other people's homes primarily, and at times, I didn't really realize it at the time, but we were homeless and people took us in, thankfully, most of the time. So there weren't many long periods of time like sleeping in a car or anything, but always somebody else's bedroom, somebody else's home, that type of thing. Sometimes like all three of us, my sister, my mom, and I, all in one bedroom. So it always felt really unattainable to me. And for a long time, I had completely put it out of my mind as even a possibility. And then at some point, I realized it's a very deep desire of mine to have a home and to have that feeling of security that comes with that. Something that theoretically no one can come and take from you. And, but I felt like there's a really big gap in where I was and my knowledge, and it felt really intimidating. So that was the whole motivation for getting my real estate license and getting into this field, was to build my own bridge, to bridge that gap and to get myself there. And so I feel really passionately about it, and I feel particularly passionate about helping people of my own community, queer people, trans people, anybody who's been marginalized, especially, that feels like it's not possible. I built this bridge because I want to bring my community across it too. That's like my dream, is to see the people that I love and care about get a piece of the pie. Yeah, there's lots of options out there that people don't know about, or just like, feel intimidating, have a lot of bureaucracy or things that they're really not that difficult. But I think people get kind of easily overwhelmed by things like that. So I'm spending a lot of time learning about that so that I can make that process really easy and digestible for other people so that they can access it.
Home is still a terrifying concept to me, and it's, if especially in a place like Asheville, unhoused youth, like there's a massive population of unhoused folks just period in Asheville. And the population of unhoused youth is huge. And nationwide, approximately 40% of kids, folks under 18 who are unhoused identify as queer, trans, or non-binary. In Asheville, it's almost double that. It's 75%. And that is not insignificant. And unfortunately, the best intentions in the world don't build shelters and they don't give kids homes. And the fact that there's, so many queer unhoused youth here who have nowhere to go is just fucking heartbreaking. And it's already a magnet, and the worse legislation gets everywhere, it's going to become more of one. And it's going to get worse here too. And I at least want these kids to know that, home may not always be a place, but it is a possible thing, and that there are people who see them and love them for who they are and think that they deserve just to be a kid, and to have a full experience of what childhood could be for them and what young adulthood could be for them.
God is real. Satan is real. But you only get one life, and I don't know if God's mad at me or whatnot. I've been going through a lot of turmoil and stuff lately. I pray over my food. I pray over different things. So I kind of feel like I pray when I need to. Drugs are dead, but deep down inside, I try to be happy and try to smile and laugh, and sometimes I'm loud and obnoxious, and there's a lot of negativity in what I'm in and what I do, but, you can't be happy and you can't survive and you can't succeed. I feel like Asheville's a great place for that, but I also feel like there's a lot of negativity and stuff going on around here, and we could change that. But some of these people are really just needing help to get off the street. I think it could be more of a push.
There's no such thing as tomorrow. There's no such thing as yesterday. The only time that there ever is right now. That's it. And so we put all these labels and these words and feelings on times that don't even exist. It's why are we holding ourselves back from the past or the present? It's good to have a goal in mind, and it's good to have a direction. But to be set out on how that has to develop is kind of naive, because none of us have that clue. And every moment is just as holy as the next. Every interaction, is just as important as the last. And every person has something to teach another person. I know things more about some things than you do, and you know a lot more about some things than I do. And so if we can meet in the middle and have a mutual respect and say, okay, I respect what you're telling me, and you respect what I'm telling you, I think at that level, then we have the opportunity to learn. And that's what what turned me around is I have something to learn from everybody. And what I mean turn around is instead of going from love and joy, from chaos to love and joy. And chaos is just fear of the unknown. And I think that's the biggest, from our religions, from our parents, from our schooling, from our media, everything is teaching us to be fearful. And so my poetry, what I do is I try and show, hey, we need to be a little bit more loving. We need to realize that, we're all in this together. We're all in the same rock, spinning around the sun 53,000 miles an hour. It's a miracle that none of us are flung off by now.
Yeah, just keep your head up, and, everything, I ain't going to say that cliche because I hate that. Everything happens for a reason. But just remember this, it's not odd, it's God. So when something odd happens, just wow, that's cool. Thank you, Lord. And just keep on going and keep praying. When I pray for someone else, that's when I get blessed. So instead of praying for myself or praying what I need, I always pray for someone else to have what they need, and then that's when I get what I need. So, okay. Yes, that's right. So, thank you, Lord.
I know, it seems like it's a great place to live. I understand lots of people moving here. And they're lucky that they can.
any feeling that anybody has around it based on their experience is completely valid. But I hope that anybody who's carrying a story that it's not possible for them or it's unattainable for whatever reason are able to shift that narrative within them and access some of the resources, or just reach out to somebody who is in the field that they feel safe with and comfortable with to ask the questions, because I think it brings up a lot for a lot of people, not just the house piece, but the financial piece that goes with it. A lot of people carry many emotions around such topics. You know, it can bring up shame, it can bring up just things that we kind of would rather not think about. And so therefore it gets tabled or we avoid it. And so rather than avoiding it, to connect with somebody who can be your cheerleader, can be in your corner and help you see that it is possible.
I hope this will help someone. Like I said, just get out there, keep your head up. I know it's hard. I was homeless. I know what it feels like to sleep on the ground and be bitten by bugs and be cold and wet and hungry. So, like I said, just keep your head up and God is with you.
The concept of home.
What home means to me? What home means to me?
The concept of home.
What home means to me?
So this one is what we just saw, Homesick, and it'll be next Saturday all through November.
bad. See the little baby, got the baby bad. See the little baby, hey, baby, hey. Now I think they having a good day. Nice shirt, gray, with the flat A. Wait a minute, tell me how is your day? Yo, I like your